In my previous life, my husband's first love, Cora Stratton and I were kidnapped simultaneously. He chose to save me. As a result, Cora met with an accident and died. My husband was unable to cope and imprisoned me. This time, I am determined to make him save Cora first. One Arla, come with me. I was reborn at the moment of choice from my previous life. The thug held a knife to both our throats, forcing Heath to make a decision. Only one can live. Who will you save? Heath's gaze wavered between Cora and me, clearly engaged in an intense internal struggle. Finally, just like in his past life, he reached his hand toward me. But this time, I firmly shook my head. Heath, you should save Cora first. I don't like owing people favors, especially life-saving issues. I don't want to live my entire life burdened by someone else's sacrifice. Hearing me say this, Heath visibly relaxed, as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. Arla, you are my fiancée. My primary responsibility is to save you. Since you are insisting on this, I guess I am off the hook. With that, he grabbed Cora and left, as if fleeing a disaster. He might have the luxury of regret, but I wouldn't allow myself to look back. In my past life, Heath had brought money to rescue me, only to be told at the last minute that more was needed. For my safety, he had no choice but to take me away first. Little did we know tragedy would strike. During the wait, the criminal's greed was sparked. Taking advantage of Cora's shower time, he secretly snapped nude photos of her and even plotted to rape her. Fortunately, we arrived with the police just in time. Although the worst was prevented for a young woman, this was enough to ruin her life. Cora, upon returning home, remained in a daze. After everyone had fallen asleep, she attempted suicide by slitting her wrists. When Heath learned of this, he showed little reaction. He calmly handled Cora's funeral arrangements, and even gave a large sum of money to the Stratton family. I suggested postponing our wedding, but he flatly refused. Arla, marrying you is set in stone. No one can stop me from making you my wife. The no one he referred to was Cora, whom he had loved deeply for 7 years. It turns out I was just his cage, a tool for his redemption. In his opinion, is my existence a mistake? Watching Heath and the others run off, I began to contemplate how to survive. Unlike my past life, I didn't know if he would come back for me this time. In his previous life, Heath used the opportunity of holding Cora to slip a tracking device into her clothes. So even when the criminals took her away, they were able to find Cora huddled in the raging storm using the tracker. But now Heath had clearly forgotten about this. Well, it made sense. After all, in his heart, there was only room for Cora. I was just the wife he had to marry out of moral obligation and to uphold the family name. Ours was a business marriage, each of us getting what we needed. It couldn't even compare to his youthful days with Cora. His regret was understandable. At last, he got his wish and I'm happy for him. But I still need to find a chance to escape. These kidnappers want to change locations, so they'll definitely pass by the auto repair shop. The owner of that shop is a real beast in a fight. In my past life, when the kidnappers passed through here and tried to take over the shop by force, they had no idea the owner was such a tough nut to crack, refusing to back down. So both sides came to blows. These kidnappers probably never dreamed there were people in the world even more vicious than them. In the end, afraid of things getting out of hand, they had to slink away with their tails between their legs. Later, the owner even testified, helping the police catch the kidnappers. Now, seeing these scumbags again, the owner doesn't hesitate to start swinging. Just like in my past life, they leave one person to watch me while the rest charge in. And here I am, and my hands tied behind my back, sitting in the driver's seat. The thug guarding me doesn't see me as a threat at all. He's too busy rushing forward with his buddies, and never imagined I could fight back. So I use my mouth to bite open the wrench. After opening the car door, I shove it wide and run forward like a madwoman. We have the same destination in mind, the auto repair shop. I want to take a gamble betting they won't just let me die. So, I brazenly run inside. Inside, chaos reigned supreme. My eyes immediately locked onto Archer, the young auto shop owner. Thick eyebrows, piercing eyes, and an aquiline nose, he exuded an air of righteousness, moved with agility, and carried a certain handsome charm. It seemed he didn't want to harm me either. To avoid any accidental injury, I hunched over and dashed towards him with lightning speed. And then, I couldn't stop in time and crashed right into him. We tumbled to the ground together. The moment I fell into his arms, my face turned ghostly pale with fright. I'm so sorry. I stammered out an apology. Could you please help save me? The man looked up at me, furrowing his brow. In the next second, he held me close as we rolled across the floor several times. Bang. A deafening crash. Where I had just been lying, a chair had smashed a gaping hole in the floor. If not for him, I'd have been turned into Swiss cheese. Before I could catch my breath or utter a word, the thugs outside had noticed my escape attempt. The situation shifted from a turf war to a hostage rescue. Both sides faced off. I fixed my gaze intently on the man beside me and whispered, "I'll do anything if you can save me." But he didn't answer, just furrowed his brow as he stared down the group of thugs. Until the person behind him couldn't help but remind him, "Archer, it's better to mind your own business." So I knew his name was Archer. With no reply forthcoming, my heart slowly sank. When the kidnapper called out for the third time for me to go back, I started walking forward. But a hand gripped my shoulder. "She's under my protection today." Archer stepped forward. I don't know if it was my imagination, but I thought I heard the sound of a motorcycle at the entrance. Archer's face bore a roguishly handsome grin. "My buddies have arrived." All the kidnappers were reluctant. They still shot me a resentful glare before cursing under their breath and leaving. The tension that had been building finally eased. I let out a quiet sigh of relief, and my wrist suddenly felt loose.